Powered by NEI Global Relocation. This is Relocation Leader, the podcast where we help advanced professionals in the world of global mobility. Now, here's your host, Zac Turbes. Welcome to another episode of Relocation Leader. I'm Ben Phillips, producer of RL, and today I have with me in the hot seat the Director of Marketing and Communications for NEI Global Relocation. We have Zac Turbes. Zac, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Ben. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on such a astute and wonderful podcast. Thank you so much for putting this together.
How does it feel to be in the hot seat this time around?
We'll see.
You never know what's going to happen, right?
So not many people get to see you and all the many talents you have, especially the voice talent that you have. And I'm really glad to be here and give you that opportunity.
I don't think working at an RMC was on either of our bingo cards. Could you tell me, how did you land in the position that you are in today?
I like to say COVID put me here. No, I worked actually at Nebraska Medicine for a good 7 years and really enjoyed my time there. Right around when COVID hit, they kind of shut down the fitness center, which I kind of had charge over. And I started looking at other opportunities for obvious reasons. And I was very grateful to Nebraska Medicine. They didn't cut me loose. They just kind of moved me to a different area of the hospital during that time. But it gave me the opportunity to look at, hey, what do I like doing? What could I be good at? And saw an opportunity over here at NEI to get into marketing. I started out as a marketing strategist. And I wish I could show you some of the videos I put together for Nebraska Medicine that I think I did show you some of them.
You showed me a couple, yeah.
They're a little unhinged, but we marketed to an internal audience, and the population over there, they kind of liked to be entertained a little bit. And so I put together some entertaining material for everyone, and NEI was like, those videos are great. Also, you can't do that here. But that's what got me my foot in the door, and I've really enjoyed the opportunity.
It's funny, COVID is always like the main precursor to any sort of change in the last 5 years. I worked in radio for about 5 years before COVID stopped, or before COVID happened rather. And after COVID came, it was just an entirely different ballgame, entirely different work environment. And I just wanted to change, and I bounced around to a couple different jobs before here, and I've been here for now almost 3 years. It's a good boat to land in, if anything. How did you figure out this industry? I know global mobility is not something that a lot of us really know about. What was the learning curve like for how to market this and how to market this to our demographic?
You mean to tell me your school didn't cover global mobility in 5th grade?
Some of us aren't gifted as well as others.
Oh, man. All right. So what was it like being plopped into global mobility for the first time? I remember when I was like interviewing for the position, I'm like, one of the things about me is I love learning, right? And I felt it was one of those, like when they hired me, it's, oh, you said you love learning? Let's prove it. I think that the industry is just, it's incredible. It's incredible that you have all these different companies working together for essentially one purpose, to get an employee from point A to point B in a way that makes the company happy and makes that employee and their family happy. And there's just so many moving parts. Like I talk to Michelle weekly and just kind of hearing what rattles around in her mind over how to run this business. I'm like, man, like this is immense. It's crazy. So I definitely think that being dropped into this industry, you have to have some sort of appetite for learning, or else you're just not going to cut it. Because if you've never done it before, there's just a lot to learn. One of the things I was thinking about was, are you familiar with Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise?
I should know these Tom Cruise movies, but I have not seen Edge of Tomorrow.
Okay.
That's required reading, required watching.
To be fair, Edge of Tomorrow is probably not one of Tom Cruise's better known films, right? Or it's underrated. It's a good film, right? And it's like, it has to do with them, or Tom Cruise's character basically replaying the same day. It's almost like Groundhog Days.
Groundhog Day.
It's almost like Groundhog's Day,
yeah,
but with like aliens and like war and all that stuff. Every day he's dropped into this day where he's sent out and has to go fight these aliens. And then it resets after he dies, and he has to try and figure out how to do it better. So when he first plays that first day or whatever, he just gets smoked. And then the next day gets a little bit better. He keeps trying some different things. And after a while, after he's lived so many of those days, he gets good at it, right? It felt like my experience for the first year and a half, 2 years in global mobility, where it's like you're trying to understand it. You think you do decent, and then you almost have to just come back and just keep trying day after day. And that's sort of what it reminded me of.
You ever watch The Pursuit of Happiness? Will Smith, the line in the movie where he says, if I don't know an answer, I'm going to say I don't know, but I tell you what, I'm going to go find it. I feel like that could be summed up pretty broadly what global mobility is. You're learning something new in global mobility every day.
It's funny too, how people at different stages of learning work together is pretty cool, because you do have the scenario where somebody maybe they're not in the industry as long and they see things a little bit differently. And so they'll explore an idea and it gets adopted. And so they kind of see it differently. But then you also have the scenario where it's like these people have been here 30 years. They've seen things come and go. And when an idea comes up, a lot of the times it's not the first time they've seen an idea come up like that. And so I don't know what the industry would be without both the new blood or the seasoned vets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You really do need both.
So going back to the new kids on the block versus kind of the seasoned vets playing together in the sandbox, how do you think relocation has evolved in the last 40 years? And how does that compare to the beginning?
I wasn't there for the last 40 years, but I feel being mentored by people who were here. I think that the things to really note are like technology was a big one. I think that overall, like competition, the fact that you have multiple different RMCs out there all trying to play this game. And it makes you really think about what you're offering in terms of value to the marketplace. It was like very logistical, transactional. And even though we're still heavy logistics, companies are now using it more as like a strategic lever to affect retention, to improve the talent within their current company, to give them the experience that they need to be able to take that company to the next level. They're also obviously using it for recruiting to get talent from wherever it's at in the globe to where they need it to be. And so I think that in general, there were elements of that in the past that have always existed. But then I guess unique to this era is just between the competition and how that changes expectations, and then what tech is doing to the whole marketplace. It's like it's making relocation companies move forward with, okay, how do we take this into the 21st century? Like, how do we update this so that it continues to evolve and work for our clients? And so I think that the change, it was noticeable in the past, but I don't know, like I'm wondering how much change is yet to come.
How does the use of AI help or hurt marketing in this field?
AI is forcing companies to reckon with their own creativity and judgment. So on the creativity front, you can offload a lot of things to AI, a lot of work. You can just give AI creative tasks and just accept blindly the output, right? Or you can bring creativity to AI and have it basically bring those ideas to fruition faster than you could have done so yourself, which kind of leads into the next portion, which is judgment, right? What's good and what's bad. At the foundation of this AI craze is a communication and reasoning engine with AI's ability to help you with technical execution of whatever tasks you give it. The what are you executing part really matters, right? I want to know what people want to know about my industry, and then you can get busy answering those questions.
Why do you think marketing in this industry and this niche of global mobility and relocation is different from marketing in any other more mainstream industry?
You got any examples?
Like Coca-Cola, I would say a pretty mainstream marketing, like you see them everywhere. You know it. Kids are like, hey, I want to go work for Coca-Cola. I'm sure some kid out there probably thinks that. But like when you think of, it's like when you're like growing up and you're like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Not many people say, I want to work in the global mobility industry. And learning to market in that industry is much different than say like a Coca-Cola or an Amazon or any of those kind of more mainstream companies.
So I think that the thing about marketing in relocation is it's you almost like 100% of the impulse decision making is removed from the equation. So if I'm going out and buying shoes, right? Maybe I just got like my tax refund, or I got money to burn, and I'm just walking around and looking for something that stands out to me, something I like. And the minute that something I like aligns with the opportunity to get it, what happens? I usually buy it. I think that like the decision to buy something is so instantaneous. And with relocation, it's like these sales cycles sometimes can be, or the buying cycles can sometimes be 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year or more. And people don't make impulse decisions. They look under every rock. Like the visibility factor, they're going to ask you so many questions and they're going to find out as much as they can about you. And that's going to be the biggest difference is like you actually have to be the people that you say you are in this industry because, you know, the truth is going to find you out. With over a year of you talking with somebody who's looking for relocation services, they're going to get a pretty good feeling for kind of like who you are, what you offer. And you can't just get them to make an impulse decision, nor in this industry would we want them to do that because it's not like you're just buying something and then you use it and go along your way. These are partnerships that last years for us. I think our average client tenure is somewhere north of 12 years or something like that. So imagine, it seems like closer to marriage than buying shoes if you're going to be with somebody for that long. And so that's, I would say, like when you're talking about marketing in this industry, that's what it is. It's not flashy. It's not like inspiring people. It's looking at them and saying, can I live with this relationship for the next 12 years? And what can we do together? Who are we going to be together? And so that's what the industry is. Marketing that industry is just totally different.
I think that could be said for not only our industry, but I think just for any B2B industry out there, that that it's not necessarily like an impulse decision, like with shoes, like you said, but it's definitely also with you're buying something to last is ideally what the goal is. I know companies go to RFP because it's in their policy every however long, but like a can of Coca-Cola, you're going to drink and you're just going to throw it away like that. And then that's the end of that.
Recycle.
Or recycle, yes. Yep. But with something like a policy, like we have clients that I think the longest client we have is 40 years. I know we're just about to hit our 41st year. And that tells you the amount of relationships that NEI has built for them to keep a relationship that long. Let's see I know there are some successful marriages out there that are 40 plus years. And kind of like you said, it's very similar to that in a B2B scenario.
If you want to talk a little bit about like how do you market, you're not dumping like millions of dollars into ads and stuff like that. I think we work very closely with sales. Believe it or not, like our company, like we work very closely with like operations and client relations just to make sure that we fully understand what it is that we actually offer. Because like I said, if you're going to go and promise this stuff to people, you better be able to make good on it because the industry talks, right?
Yep.
And the last thing we want to do is say that we can do something and then have it turn out later that we can't do it. And so I think that a lot of our time is spent aligning with those different departments and different cost centers and areas just to make sure that when we go to market, we're able to accurately communicate all the offerings so that people know what they're getting.
Yeah, it's well said. All right. So we got some fun questions lined up for you.
Those aren't the fun ones?
I know. Sorry to disappoint you. So I asked you to find quotes.
Which wasn't that hard.
I know. You are the quote master. So I know normally you ask people for quotes, but now I figured I flip the tables on you and ask, Zac, what are your favorite quotes?
All right. So I don't know, like maybe it's just the host in me, but I almost want to turn it around on you and say, what do you think of my quotes? But the first one I put on here was pick your heart. And because I think that, first of all, like you can choose an easy life, right? Or what seems easy at the start, right? But if you just choose to coast or to say that I'm just not going to put forth any effort, eventually you're going to get to a hard point in your life. And all that lack of accumulated work is not going to be there for you when you're facing up against some struggle. And also, like, the person that is forged over choosing to do hard things in life is going to make easy work out of everything that comes in their path. That I don't want to say like easy work, but you know what I'm saying. You recalibrate if you intentionally seek out hard things when other things that come into your life that are actually really hard, like now you're accustomed to it. This is another day that ends in Y.
100%. I definitely think everybody's going to experience some hardship in their life. It's whether do you want to experience it now or do you want to experience it later. And the effort that you or I are putting in now, hopefully will reap rewards down the line.
It's funny too, because like, how do you know you're actually doing something that's hard, right? I'm reminded of this every time that I tell my wife I'll be complaining that it's cold because I spent 10 years in California. I just can't take it anymore. I'm like, we need to move to Florida right now. And she'll be like, is that what the men at Valley Forge were saying? And I'm like, touche. And so I think that sometimes you may think something's hard and it's very relative to what some other people have gone through. And so I pick your hard is something that is, hey, don't shy away from doing hard things when they come to your path. Just accept it and get to work, because who knows what else God's going to put in your path later. So
absolutely. So
yeah,
I'll share one of my quotes. I figured I have a quote in mind just in case you flip it on me. But it's, ask and it will be given to you, seek and ye shall find, knock and it shall be opened unto you. It's Matthew 7:7. And how I phrase that, how I understand that is like, we can't do everything ourselves. We think we can do everything ourselves. My wife will be the first one to admit, Ben, you can't do everything yourself. And especially when it comes to life, when it comes to making decisions, you need somebody in your corner. And in relocation, it's very similar. You're not going to know all the answers. It's impossible to do every single thing. That's why there's CRP certifications and whatnot.
Plus continuing ed.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
My point. It's important that we're always striving to find the answer, but it's a gentle reminder, at least for me, as somebody who just likes to think that he knows it all and someone that he thinks he can do everything, that you need a team. You need a tribe. And I, like with you and my colleague Stephanie, it's important that we put our minds together and our brains together and we figure out the solution. And that's the beauty of it. So
we should totally get Stephanie on the podcast.
That might be a sell. You might need sales for that one.
So do you know who Steve Wozniak is?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Steve Wozniak was one of the co-founders of Apple.
Yeah. The first computer. Yeah.
Yeah. The first computer. And so he says, all the best things I did at Apple came from not having money and not having done it before ever.
Yeah.
And I just love that, because it takes away any excuses that people have about, I can't really do this because I don't have this and we don't have the capital, or it's the wrong timing. And it turns it around. Here's the deal. Apple, I know Apple, they built it when they had nothing. I just think it's so cool. I think that just having that mindset, okay, look, what if these constraints that I'm up against are actually the best thing for my creativity? Like, sometimes we don't have our best ideas when we are loaded and we can actually anything. I remember too, was it Elon, or when he was trying to figure out how to get SpaceX off the ground, and he went to Russia to buy a rocket.
Yeah.
And just trying to figure out, I just think it's a great mindset.
I was literally thinking about Elon. Elon would also just buy college level engineering textbooks. I think he was like 13 or 14. And then he would call up I'm sure I'm going to get fact checked on this. He'll call up the author and he'll have a conversation like he's been in the industry for a very long time. I think that's a good reminder for everybody to remember. It's not necessarily the lack of something you don't have, but it's rather what can you do and how can you do it with the materials you have. What was your thought process behind Relocation Leader? What was the goal of why you wanted to lift this off the ground?
Just, I think, pure entertainment and quotes. For people who don't have enough quotes in their life, probably that too. And then also, if people don't watch enough movies, I think that this podcast is really there to remind them to watch more movies.
de facto movie and quote podcast guys.
Really what it is, I wanted to create a movie podcast, and they're like, you can't do that. This is relocation. And I'm like, okay, we'll see. No, I think that in general, like, all right, when I got into relocation, I listened to a lot of podcasts, right? And so I went out there and I was like, are there any podcasts on relocation? And guess how many I found?
How many?
Not a lot.
Wow.
At least none that I could really feel like I wanted to listen to. And now I guess since then, like there's been a few that have popped up that are pretty neat. But in general, we're trying to get a podcast together that, or I guess like my involvement in the podcast is I want to create the podcast that I wish would have been there when I first got into relocation. And also something that like, you know, I like thinking through topics, starting broad and working down to stuff that's more granular, more conceptual. So not just staying at the surface level, trying to, yes, understand the topic. But, hey, can we go deep on this? Can we make this podcast something that both a newcomer would appreciate, but then also like an industry vet would rubber stamp and say, yeah, I like that podcast. I think that's outside of the quotes and the movies and stuff like that. But something that I really hope that we're trying to do here is create a podcast that the relocation industry just likes. Just a podcast that maybe in 10 years, they couldn't think about relocation and not think about Relocation Leader.
That's well said. I definitely feel the same sentiment when I first started working here. There were a lot of different podcasts out there. Like Ben Cross's Love and Relo is one of them, to name probably one of the most known. But it very much already assumes that you're already at a high level of global mobility knowledge. For somebody like me, I have no idea where to start. So let's start somewhere. I thought RL's done that pretty well so far.
Thing about Ben, so I love Ben's podcast. Yeah. I love it.
As do I.
But Ben, he doesn't put it on the podcast catchers. I mean, he's like a LinkedIn only guy. And so I do listen to Love and Relo. I like Love and Relo. But he's got to get it on Podcast Republic, Spotify, Apple. Come on, let's go.
Benny's calling you out. He's going to find you at GPA now and be like, here you go, Spotify.
I'm a fan. You got to be everywhere. Just saying.
Why don't companies push RMC services like ours to help with that peace of mind?
Or seek it out, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, why don't they seek it out?
Yeah, I think that a lot of the clients we work with, obviously, because they're our clients, do see a lot of value in it. I think that in certain industries, like it's just part of the game. Like relocation, you have to have it to make your business work. And so I think that why do those people continue? Like obviously, like it's making their business work. Why do some people who don't use relocation services not use relocation services? And in my mind, it's like this. Either you got really lucky, you got the people you need, and they've stayed for a long time. Maybe you're a great employer and like you just set it up so that those people are just like perfectly happy. That's great, right? Then you have people who are just like live in talent hubs. You don't have to work really hard to find top level talent in Chicago, right? Or in New York, LA. There's a lot of people all around those places, and they go there specifically because of all the industry there. Not to say that like people in those hubs don't get employees from elsewhere, but in general, like there's big talent hubs out there, and sometimes you can find the talent right where you're at. But then I think this is the most case for more companies than we probably care to believe. But some people they don't really value talent like they maybe should. And I look back to, we've talked about Apple and with Steve Jobs. I like listening to him and Musk and some other like visionaries, business visionaries and stuff like that. And one of the through lines with all these different visionaries is they all care tremendously about the people around them. Yeah. And what I take from that is, hey, look, I'm not smarter than him. And if Jobs was so obsessive about making sure the first 10 people at his company were like A+ people because he believed that those people would police each other, it would be self-policing. And then eventually you would have a company from this core of people, right, that is just like the culture is excellence, right? And yeah, I think that if those people are not in your immediate area, how are you going to get them there? Are you sure that the company you've built is the company that you believe will take whatever industry you're at by storm in 10 years. And if you don't have the right people, you got to go get the right people.
Right.
And they're not always right where you're at. So I think that it's that mindset. And some people think that AI coming into that is going to sort of negate what you need from actual humans. I actually think it amplifies it, because to give an example, Midjourney is a tool they use for image creation, right? AI image creation. And you can go on in like Midjourney right now and type in, I want this image, and it'll give you something that's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
But if you're an art history major and you're using that same tool, you can say, I want it to have elements of this obscure style or this obscure artist way back when. I need it to be reminiscent of fill in the blank. You can tell I'm not an art history major, but the fact is that their judgment is at such a high degree that they can then take that AI tool and then use it to its fullest potential, right? And so I think that a lot of these AI tools and capabilities are going to flood into the marketplace, and you need people who are essentially experts already that can then point AI at whatever problems need to be solved.
Yeah.
And so it'll just allow us to do more.
Yeah. And I think that's well said about Midjourney and like the art history major, for example. I was listening to a podcast and they were asking, are the humanities going to be in trouble? So English and art and those kind of disciplines. And they're saying like they're going to need it even more now, because AI has to learn from something. And you don't want it to learn from just any old person. Like you want it to learn, and in retrospect, you want it to be double checked by somebody who is well versed in that subject, or someone who can teach the AI properly about Shakespeare, for example. So it kind of goes back into that realm about AI is not here to replace us. AI is here to help magnify what we do. If you had to think, what will separate elite RMCs from average ones in the next 5 years?
This one was going to be tough because I feel like I know the answer. I also don't want to share the answer right now because it's something we're working on.
Fair enough.
And I will tell you, technology is going to be really important, but not in the way most people think. You remember when ChatGPT first came out and people were like, I can draft anything with ChatGPT, right? Yep. And then you see just all these like people using ChatGPT to like draft blog articles, right?
Yep.
And different other things, right? And in the beginning, maybe even though the AI was like not great, it was still so new that it didn't bother us. And honestly, sometimes like he didn't know right away, right? But humans are experts in pattern recognition. And eventually people grew to understand when AI was being used.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say too, and my wife reminded me of this, you don't know what's going to happen in 5 years fully. Like you have an idea, you kind of the general guide, but like something new, some trend could be new in the next 5 or even 2 years, that it's going to be like, how is your RMC going to prepare for that? Like, how are you going to be able to pivot to try to keep up with what's going on? So I think technology is definitely a big one, but I think you have to be just on the lookout for what you don't know is going to happen yet.
I mean, Ben Cross, I saw on a post, and I'm going to butcher it, but it was something to the effect of, be careful if you're in a people business to automate the people, right? Because you may lose both the people and the business. And I think sometimes it can feel a little bit like a little bit trite to say that RMCs, we operate in a people business and we're all about relationships. And when somebody is locked out of their apartment and they want to really call a real person who can help them right away, this is what it's about. And so I think sometimes where we have this attitude of, yeah, you're just saying that because you don't want it to go away. You know what I mean? And I just don't think that's the case. Like, I think that, yes, it may sound trite until you're that person locked out.
Yeah.
It may sound trite until like you are just staring at a dashboard with all your metrics and no one to help you understand anything except for a bot that is annoying. I just think that to a lot of the people we work with, they are people, and they like, yeah, you could simulate a conversation with another person. Like I could one day purchase a Ben bot and sit across and have this conversation with Ben bot. But that's, to be honest, is that what we really want though? I feel like humans have preferences for actual humans for good reason. And whether or not it's efficient makes no difference. The preference is going to remain. And I think that in an industry that is a people industry and has been for 40, 70 years, to just have the hubris to think it's just going to change, I think is misreading humanity.
And going back to what you've said a myriad of podcasts ago, I like AI as much as the next guy, but I'm still going to be the person that's trying to get to a human as quickly as possible when I'm calling on the telephone. That puts me in an old age where I like calling people, but I'm gonna think, what is the quickest way I can press 0 and talk to somebody? Because the bot's not going to fully understand what I want, but it's that human aspect that we crave for. And
now, what I might do is make it far more cost efficient for everyone involved. It might make it far more enjoyable in terms of I don't have to worry at all about finance or how the tax equalization is going to factor into this thing, or if there's a logistics problem that's going to be sorted out. All that stuff may be automated away. And is that going to bother anyone? I don't think so. I don't think it's going to bother anyone on our side. I don't think it's going to bother anyone on their side, the client side. But do I think that they're still going to want a person involved in the mix? Yes, I do. And so that's why I think, and are we still moving people? Yes, we are. And so I don't think that relocation is going away. I think that the elite relocation company of the future, 5 years is what you said, is going to see that and start working on it right now. All right, before you go, okay.
Yeah.
What is your greatest joy in producing such a fine podcast?
Oh, wow. Don't flatter me like that, Zac. Probably all the sound bites, all the good sound bites. And,
that people never get to hear.
People never get to hear. You get to hear a lot of cuts that don't make it, but they just sound really good. And I'm just like, this is a shame it's not making the cut, because we try to keep it within 30 minutes. But I don't know, if you ask me nicely, maybe I'll release it. So
when he says all these amazing cuts, he means all the bloopers.
There are some really good conversations, though, that I find really insightful, like genuinely. I didn't think, I know we had Christina and Rita from IOR on, they were a couple episodes back, but I genuinely found that conversation really interesting, because I've never thought that language and culture, and you can't replicate that with Duolingo in the same way that they can. And I didn't realize how important that is to make it a successful move. Just a little tidbits of knowledge that I pick up from there, even as somebody who is not in your shoes. I find that really insightful.
And also, you become this faceless celebrity, right? People just know about Ben, but they never see him. Now they do.
Now you have a face. Now you're going to hunt me down at GPA.
Yeah, that is the coolest thing. I do love our service partners, and I do like getting to know them. And that's probably one of the coolest things about this podcast is when my first GPA, it's great. I'm in a big room with a bunch of people. I have no clue what they do, and I don't know any of them. And that's just not my experience anymore. It's I like the fact that now I don't just know Rita and Christina. I don't just know Alex Talbot and all these different wonderful service partners, but I've talked with them about what they do and what how they do what they do and how that helps our clients and stuff like that. And it's just takes on a totally different vibe. Can I say vibe here?
Yeah, it's a vibe.
It's a vibe. It's great though.
Wow. Hopefully we'll be editing for another 50 more episodes. And Zac, thanks so much for coming on. It's been a blast, and we'll have to switch chairs again sometime.
No problem. Glad to be here.
That was another episode of Relocation Leader. Make sure to follow us on LinkedIn and wherever you listen to our podcast, and we'll see you back in 2 weeks. Take care. This has been Relocation Leader, the podcast where we help advanced professionals in the world of global mobility. Listen back here every 2 weeks for a new episode on neirelo.com or on your favorite podcast platform. We'll see you next time.